There wasn't much that was accomplished today. Um, I feel in many ways this is kind of really the narrative of the past few weeks. Um, Ever since I finished up my last final draft of my novel there and began querying it, not a lot has got done. Um, I haven't gotten much of really anything accomplished. I've obviously sent off a few queries of some short stories, and as you're seeing on the screen here, I've gone through and made some edits to some of my older short stories. Um, but the work itself isn't a whole lot. There's not a lot that's being done, certainly as far as any kind of real productivity beyond just, again, making some light touch-ups to some old stories and just sending off queries, which really is not a whole lot of work. It's kind of the lightest part of the entire process. Um, and so part of that is just where I am in kind of the cycle of the writing process. I've spoken before about how the writing process tends to be a bit of a cycle. It tends to come in this very sort of circular format where you start with the idea, you go through a period of like burning through all this work to get it written. You go through an editing phase, and then things taper off. As you finish up your projects and as you start querying them, things taper off. The workload tends to taper. You don't get as much done because nothing to do. There's nothing to do, in a sense, until you start your next project. And this time period should be used to really think about what you want to do next, which I certainly have been. I've still been, kind of debating on what I want to do for my next project, and kind of where I want to put my focus going forward over the next year, 2 years, 3 years of my writing career. But in that time frame, there's not a lot actually being done, physically being created. It's People tend to think that thinking and sort of analyzing and planning out what you're going to do is not necessarily work. They'll say, "Oh, you're not doing any work at all," because you haven't produced something, because you haven't demonstrated anything to them that you've actually put out. The time period of thinking and analyzing and sort of quiet contemplation, that's very, very much, I think, kind of dismissed by most of society as just general laziness, but it's a part of the process. It is an inevitable part of the writing process. And I've spoken before as well about the idea of sort of how my emotions tend to tie into the seasons, right? We're in the harvest right now, the fall. And up until very recently, up until we kind of transitioned from an agricultural society to more of an industrial one, people did not do a lot in the winter. A lot of the late fall right into the winter, you weren't doing necessarily a whole lot of work. The work came in the spring when you planted, and in the fall when you harvested your crops. By the time winter came around, you either had prepared enough to have enough food and wood for heating and all that to survive the winter, or you didn't. So this time of the year, it was like you got to enjoy kind of the rewards of your efforts throughout the entire year by just staying alive, by having enough resources to outlive the winter before you can start planting your crops again. And so that's changed now, obviously, but it's still, I think, a part of kind of the human psyche. I think it's still part of the sort of human path that we live on, where when the fall comes, the fall into the winter, I mean, there are periods of laziness that is sort of, it feels like kind of like it's our time to sort of take it easy in a sense. And obviously, I'm not doing nothing. That's important. I don't think people should just stop doing anything, but I do think that scaling back your work if you are able to, and if you're in a position kind of like mine where it's sort of like something that has to be done, go with it. Embrace the season. Embrace kind of that effort there, and embrace the what nature kind of has given you in a sense. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm sort of enjoying the harvest. I'm enjoying I guess the harvest time of my writing in a sense, and await the eventual spring that will come when I begin my next project and begin furiously cranking out words again. And so with that, though, I will see you all tomorrow. I do hope you are doing well, and best of luck, though, in your writing journeys.